Are you looking for a more relaxed, fun learning environment for your children this summer? Maybe you're looking for some opportunities for them to engage in their learning, for you to have the chance to provide that spark that gets them learning and excited about learning. Maybe you're looking for some ideas and options for summer learning for your children. We never stop learning. Even if you have decided to set the textbooks aside, there are lots of learning opportunities right in your own backyard or just a short drive away from your house. What does your children's summer classroom look like? I'm Diana Rolston. I want to welcome you to Spark Homeschool Parent and welcome you to my summer series and my children's summer classroom. This is a swamp not far from our house, and there are a lot of swamps, ponds, just like this one, not far from where you live, no doubt. This swamp, and many of them, are full of frogs' eggs and dragonfly larvae, and who knows, there are so many living things in environment just like this. It is so exciting and so many things to discover. My children were not a fan of formal education through the summer, so they spent hours a day, day after day, in this classroom. Don't tell them it was learning though, but sometimes I would say that they learned more during the summer than they did all throughout their school year sometimes, because this is what they experienced. This is the learning that they remembered, and they do remember years that they'll always remember. I homeschooled my 3 boys through to graduation. They're young adults now, and asked them anything about an environment like this, and they could tell you loads of things through their experiences, not from the books that they read, although those helped, but just from their experiences. In this swamp, in this pond, they collected frogs' eggs. From there, we put them into an aquarium on the porch and watched those little tadpoles emerge. Tadpoles are like little fish, and then their back legs form, and then they're odd looking. Their front legs form, but they still have their tail. And then their tail gets absorbed into their body, and then and while they have their legs still, they're still swimming under the water, popping up a little bit more for air, but then they turn into the frogs, and then my kids would be feeding them things that they had taken out of this pond, but flies and other exciting things that frogs eat. You may think, yeah, that's good for you, Diana. You seem really excited about the swamp and the frogs. But let me tell you, when I started homeschooling my boys, I was not excited about hanging out in a mosquito-infested, swampy, I don't know how you can explain this, but swampy area. I wasn't excited about it. But when I saw the excitement on my children, I learned to get excited about the things that they were excited about. So for the first little while, they'd say, wow. See, you could see I've practiced. Wow, that's really exciting. Tell me a little bit more. What else did you learn? Where do they live? What do they eat? What else is in there? So many questions I would sort of force myself to ask until I realized at one point I really was excited about everything that lives in this area. But it starts because my children were excited about it. So I would encourage you, just practice. Wow, that's really exciting. When they're young, they don't realize, but as they get a little bit older, you really do have to do it with a little bit more authenticity. But you learn how to do that over the years. So what other things did they learn? They learned to create habitats in that aquarium. We couldn't just put water in. Our tadpoles would have died. So they created a habitat for our tadpoles and frogs that resembled much of the environment that they live in. that was a great learning experience. I also, on rainy days or days that we weren't out in this area, we'd be watching movies about frogs and the lifestyle of frogs. I brought along a few other books that I'd have. Just this little children's book, that was a great one. It's a frog's life cycle of a frog. But there are a lot of resources from the Toronto Zoo. We found these, but I would suspect that there is an association somewhere in your area that may provide this, like a little poster, and lots of fascinating information about frogs and toads, depending on, and pictures. You could read that to your children, or they can read that and discover it. And these are the different tadpoles of the different types of frogs in our area. So they were able to identify the frog from their tadpole. On the other side are amphibians. So we got our salamanders and newts. So that was pretty cool. I think it was from the, oh, this is Adopt a Pond. I think this is also from the Toronto Zoo. They have posters on toads and frogs. This is all folded up, so it's a little bit bigger than that. But for the summer, I put that on our wall. What else did we do with regards to frogs? We went around to different areas, habitats of frogs, and tried to identify them through different identification books that we have. I don't think I brought one out with me, but identifying them and just looking for experts. We had the opportunity to connect with a couple of frog and amphibian experts. So they're out there and they are so excited to share with young people their research and enthusiasm also. If you have some children who like to be out here getting their feet wet, but others who prefer not to, they can still learn about frogs just from observing and the excitement of your other children. But maybe you have a child who wants to bake. Baking and putting it in the shape of a frog, sure, nothing wrong with that. Drawing pictures of frogs, coloring, but then also drawing pictures and identifying different parts of the frog. There are so many crafts with regards to frogs also, that's always a fun thing to do. If you feel like you are compelled to do like a little bit more formal learning, maybe you want to look into doing a lap book about frogs. So let me just show you some other things that I would post. Other years we did some studies on turtles. This is also from the Toronto Zoo, and I would put those posters, and then I have this bigger poster, Turtles of Ontario. Oh, and then of course, when you are out in the wilderness, you will also come across snakes. I know snakes kind of freak us out a little bit, moms. But once you get to learn more about what's out here, you just realize there's less and less to be afraid of. And then there's a poster about snakes. Okay, so maybe butterflies are more your thing. I also came across this butterfly poster that I put up, identifying the butterfly and the caterpillar associated with that butterfly. So that was a good one to put up. Wild about butterflies. I'm not sure where I got this one, but like I say, you just like look around and there's so many things available. This one is from Canadian Wildlife Federation. This one is about wildflowers. Maybe that's more what you're looking for. A little bit more clean environment. Trampsing through looking for wildflowers. Whoops. It's always good to learn too about edible wildflowers in your area. This is one book that I loved. This is Uncover a Frog, and it's the anatomy of a frog. That was pretty cool. Just so, you know, I wasn't keen on dissecting our own frogs. But lots. Eyewitness books, Living World. These are kind of books that I would have around. This is a good one. There's lots of fun with nature. Lots of activities. Take along guide. Lots about frogs in here, and the butterflies and dragonflies and turtles, and different fun activities, all kinds of stuff, it says. So that's a good one. And then always, as our children get older, they can take a look at our bird identification books. I got some good ones here that we still refer to. They're a little tattered because we look at them a lot. Oh yeah, and another eyewitness book. This one's on reptiles. And then, of course, the DK have lots on bugs and other things like that. So yeah, maybe, sorry, I got a mosquito on my finger. Maybe being out in the swamp and learning about frogs is not your thing or your children's things. Maybe, but I'll give you some other ideas. How about a weather station? Build a weather station. We just spend so much more time outside during the summer. So how about learning about the humidity and the wind and all that, and do your own predictions of the weather. We always, as the storm rolls in, would get our popcorn and sit on the back porch, but your children can be prepared for that. Or gardening. Gardening's always a fascinating thing to do, from planting the seeds to tending the garden and fertilizing, if you want to learn more about that. Eating and cooking from the garden also is awesome. If you are a family that prefers to be indoors a little bit more, that's awesome. And maybe your children enjoy reading. Maybe this is the year that your child is going to read a series, a long series. Or this is the summer that your child is going to write that book. That would be a fantastic summer experience. Or illustrate a book that maybe one of your other children write. Anyway, I wanted to just introduce you to my children's summer classroom and a little bit about the things that they learned through the summer. Yeah, just want to encourage you to model that curiosity, and it is contagious. Just model that excitement. What are you excited about? What classroom environments do you want to learn more about or be immersed in? Maybe that's a great place for you and your family to begin. And your curiosity and enthusiasm will be contagious for your children. And then just see where that grows, where that takes you. And yeah, just take the prompting from your children. I know this looks like a dirty environment to be in, but when our kids love it, I mean, they're learning and they're engaged, and it's just a great way to start. Just encouraging our children to take learning into their own hands, and there's so much to discover. And then, you know, after being in here, you got to jump in the lake or whatever, hose them down in the yard, which is always awesome. Anyway, thanks for joining me. And I want to hear, what is your children's summer classroom look like? Share some of your thoughts and yeah, ask some questions. I love to engage with what you're doing through the summer, and maybe you can be encouraging others around you by sending in some of your comments. Again, I'm Diana Rolston, and this is Spark Homeschool Parent. And thanks for joining me in my children's summer classroom. I'll see you again next week for another Facebook Live.